I used our engagement party as an opportunity to tell my fiancé's family about his 2 extramarital affairs. He and I have been together for 3 years. When our lives stabilized, we intended to tie the knot. I desired to have children with him. There was no one in the world that I loved more than him. I've moved away from home, given up jobs to be with him, made countless sacrifices for him, and supported him when he began returning to school. My entire universe was given to him. He also betrays me. Moreover, a month ago I learned. The jerk became arrogant. I also discovered that he was having extramarital affairs with 2 separate women. One works at the university as a teaching assistant, while the other is the girlfriend of his closest buddy. I'm furious. I'm choking back venom as I write this account. He was my universe and I loved him dearly, but now he will be the one I burn to ash. Since he quit his job last year to attend school, I have been paying for everything. I made enough money to sustain us both, so I was more than eager to assist him. The only bright spot is that the college loans are in his name and have nothing to do with me. Pushing the scoundrel out to sea will hurt, but I'll make it through. I have a month to prepare what I refer to as the day his world burns. We're throwing a party tomorrow. Unfortunately, my family will not be able to attend, even though I made arrangements for his family to visit. The luggage is in the back of my car, and I have already packed everything that is valuable. Tomorrow, my brother will attend the event and transport the dirtbag to my parents' house with the car he uses, which is registered in my name. All of the money is already in the joint account, which is already empty. He believes it's for us to tell his family that we're engaged, and the celebration will be fantastic. In actuality, I'll make an announcement about my departure from his life. I've already found a new residence and accepted a job out of state. I'll begin by letting everyone know his interests. He asked his friend's girlfriend to urinate on him, according to the screenshots. They will all be shared, along with the several other dreams his deranged mind produced. We've already violated our lease, so I'll give him the notice to leave. By the end of the month, we must depart. I'll conclude by telling him that I've already told the university that he had slept with a teaching assistant for one of his classes the previous semester, and that I'm sorry I won't be affected by that. I'll deliver the message his friend has for him, which tells him that his friend group doesn't want to see him ever again. I will then depart without turning around. I'll burn his life down and go. Alright, this is my later update. It is said that man's demise is due to arrogance. I intended to destroy his life yesterday in front of his whole family. I spent a month crafting the situation that would most deeply hurt him. However, he waited patiently for the opportunity to emerge from his environment in a blaze of glory. I then landed on Reddit's homepage. Hours after he promised to be home, he stopped responding to my texts and failed to show up, which made me realize that I had made a mistake. I had thought it was a good accident, that is, that he was killed by a car before I could intervene, but it wasn't. The person who mattered in my plan came across my Reddit post, although I'm not sure how many men cheat on their soon-to-be fiancé with their best friend's girlfriend and a teacher's assistant right now. He had rushed home to his folks, I learned when I contacted his mother. He informed them that after our altercation we were most likely done. I was furious with myself, and I still am. He omitted some facts, and his mother asked me what had happened. I then made the decision to inform her that he was having an affair with his friend's girlfriend and a teacher's aide. Before she hung up, I heard yelling. I sent copies of all his conversations to his parents and siblings, and I told my ex that he had till the next morning to return my blasted car before I reported it stolen. When I woke up, my automobile was in my driveway. I considered sending the images nevertheless, but his mother texted me yesterday to express her sincere regret for her son's behavior, and I believe they should be exempted from his twisted tastes. I won't be returning once my father and I move all of my belongings today. You cheating frick, I'm sure you'll hear this. What a cowardly piece of shit you are. If you ever dare to re-enter my life, know that I'm not beyond sharing every screenshot. I wish you luck, because I have no control over what they do with that information. I can't say that I'm very unhappy that you were unable to throw your vengeance party, to be honest. It seems like a terrible amount of energy to spend on destroying someone, even if I'm sure it could have been immediately rewarding. Simply cutting them off and letting them repeatedly engage in the same self-destructive behaviors. This is more my style. But that's just me. Yes, if you were truly determined to get rid of the individual, it was probably not your finest idea to write a narrative that caught the attention of the entire internet. After putting your clever plan into action, you may wish to compose a post-mortem for future violent revenge schemes. It may have been worse, too. People may have interrupted you in the middle of your presentation, or he could have devised a counterplot to destroy your delicious retaliation. You may still consider yourself fortunate in this case, in my opinion, because there were a lot of moving components that might have gone wrong. It seems like he still totally destroyed himself in his affairs, so if you were seeking retribution, it might be time to move on to better things for your own benefit. The construction worker's retaliation. As a child, I would work summer jobs to augment my salary as a teacher. I heard an incredible story while working for a bricklayer called Jerry one summer. Since I started working for Jerry in the middle of the 1990s, the tale must have taken place in the early 1990s or early 1980s. Let's get started. A group of little rural communities with just one bricklayer among them served as the story's backdrop. Jerry started his profession as a bricklayer for this jerk of a contractor. Every employee was regularly subjected to bullying, denigration, and humiliation by Jerk and his son, an adult who worked with his father at the company. Employees were informed they weren't worth the money they were paid, and no job was ever considered good enough. Jerk was not only impolite to his workers, but also to the general contractors who used him and other subcontractors. There was nothing anyone could do about it, because he was the only bricklayer in the neighborhood. It goes without saying that the brick company had a very high turnover rate. Jerry was the only one who remained with Jerk and company. Jerry informed me that his father had given him the confidence to accomplish everything he set his mind to, and that he need to assess himself based on the facts rather than what other people have stated. Like all the other workers, Jerry was being denigrated by Jerk and son, but he was improving as a bricklayer. He was good, Jerry knew. Although Jerk was aware of Jerry's goodness, Jerk was unaware that Jerry was aware of his own goodness. Jerry was not only a skilled bricklayer, but he also showed great respect to the employer who treated him badly. Jerry was viewed by Jerk as a simpleton who was buying his head games. It would turn out to be a grave error on his behalf. One day, Jerry began putting bricks with remarkable skill. In addition to his incredible artistry, he was laying bricks quickly, earning a lot of money for his boss. Naturally, son and Jerk were disparaging his job as if he were doing the exact opposite. The project's general contractor is observing the situation. The general contractor requested Jerry to remain behind after work that day so he could speak with him. Like all the other construction workers in the neighborhood, the general contractor detested dealing with the Jerk. Jerry was informed by the general contractor that he had overheard the Jerk and his kid disparaging him, and that he didn't agree with what the Jerk had to say. He inquired if Jerry had ever thought of starting his own company. General contractor agreed to lend Jerry the money to purchase a mixer, the most costly piece of equipment required to launch a brick-and-mortar firm, after Jerry expressed his desire to do so in the future. The only drawback was that Jerry would be a subcontractor under the general contractor and would have to pay for the mixer whenever he could. Jerry accepted those conditions and was ready to launch his new business. Jerry handed his notice and politely informed Jerk and son of his plans. The two laughed scornfully at Jerry and cruelly made fun of him. "You'll be back in 2 months," pleading to go back to work. Jerk informed Jerry, "You're not going to succeed as a subcontractor." Instead of failing as Jerk had prophesied, Jerry was still operating and thriving 2 months later. When Jerry's business was doing well a year later, a drunk Jerk knocked on his door and pleaded with him to return to work with Jerk and son. "I've never had a better employee than you, Jerry. Why didn't you tell me that while I worked for you?" Jerry retorted. Jerry clearly declined the job offer, and the idiot was unable to respond to the inquiry. Jerry learned that Jerk and son had gone out of business 2 years after he started his entrepreneurial journey. Jerry said that, when he accepted the offer from general contractor, he had no intention of hurting Jerk and son. He claimed that after giving it some thought, he saw that he had turned into Jerk's worst nightmare. But I can't argue that general contractor didn't mean any damage when he did what he did. The story's most remarkable aspect, in my opinion, was how Jerry managed to keep his dignity despite all of the mockery. I also developed a greater regard for Jerry's father, who gave him an unwavering sense of self-worth. Update. How much you admired him. He reminded me that despite being confined to a wheelchair, his father managed to achieve a great deal. Jerk's remarks seemed like such a small hurdle to surmount because of his father's accomplishment of conquering enormous barriers. "Hey Jerry, fantastic work. It only goes to show that in certain professions, being a good worker and keeping a positive attitude may get you recognized and have benefits. For the majority of office and corporate employment, I wish I could say the same. But that's a different story. I appreciate that. To the best of our knowledge, Jerry didn't even try to destroy the individuals who had long treated him like trash. He was merely there, doing his hardest and being kind to individuals who, like the main character in a poor romantic comedy, realized that the answer to their issue had been him happily going about his job right in front of them, the entire time. For many firms, complacency is their worst enemy. The fact that Jerk and son treated their employees and customers like shit because they had a monopoly on bricklaying was eventually the cause of their demise. People, take note of this. Show consideration for your employees and those whose money you accept. If not, a competitor company owned by one of your former employees may open and steal all the customers you've irritated over the years. My spouse was just fired by Crocs for reporting a coworker who claimed to have beat up homosexual males. The colleague is still employed there. My spouse just lost his job at the Dayton, Ohio, Crocs distribution center. You are mistaken if you believe that Crocs has any concern for minorities. My spouse reported a coworker last week for making several homophobic, sexist, racist, and transphobic remarks. These included grumbling that he had to work with women in general and that he had to wait in line to clock out towel heads. Why did it have to be a girl? I understand that we need people. Telling someone that he used to drive these queer sacks into an open field and kick the living daylights out of them after tricking them into attending a party. He mentioned a trans male he worked with who is a girl, has a rack, and uses the women's restroom. The supervisor to whom he complained went directly to the individual who had made the remarks and told him bluntly that it was his husband who had lodged the complaint. None of these remarks were refuted by the colleague. I don't recall saying it, but I probably did, he told my husband directly. Here, I say a lot of stupid things. However, my husband complained to HR that he stayed late after his shift, waited for him in the parking lot, and followed him about in his truck while yelling at him. The following day, HR informed him that those remarks were made some time ago. He didn't really do anything in the parking lot, and there is nothing we can do about it at this point. Therefore, you might consider looking for a new job if you don't enjoy working with him. This coworker was reported by several colleagues. Crocs decided to take no action. My spouse lost his job today. He said that a coworker overheard him whispering that if he ever got into problems or was fired, he would hurt people because they needed to be hurt, and that ladies get in the way of his job and you don't enjoy working with them. My hubby would never say something like that in a million years. Who even does that? Who mutters strange things under their breath while strolling about? No one does that. Crocs is aware that this is nonsense, and they have no evidence that he ever stated something as crazy as they are claiming. Nevertheless, they dismissed him. Daz and Crocs will undoubtedly recruit you if you're a woman, homosexual, or transgender, but they don't care about giving you a safe workplace. That man who claimed to have beaten the living daylights out of gay men, he is still employed there. For some strange reason, Crocs is deciding to fire everyone who complains and shield the man who acknowledged saying all of those horrible remarks. It's fantastic that they offer trans and gay pride shoes, but they also deliberately try to create a hostile workplace for trans and homosexual individuals. If you've ever considered phoning Crocs' ethics line or going to HR as an employee, don't. The purpose of that line is to help them decide who to fire. We are now dependent only on my salary, which comes to roughly $1,500 per month after taxes and my awful health insurance, for two individuals who have mouths to feed and a mortgage to pay. Thank you, Crocs. But at least you provided undercooked burgers and overdone hot dogs and were upset when customers complained, rather than offering financial bonuses after shipping records. Big, shady companies are doing what they do best, which is manipulating pride to sell more products, and they don't really care about associated concerns other than that. The reasons for the dismissal seem really dubious, thus I sincerely hope the author may see a lawyer about this. When he verbally abuses someone, they will do nothing but tell the rubbish fire of the coworker who filed the complaint against him. I can't for the life of me understand why the store's human resources department is doing everything in their power to retain this very bad employee on staff. I'm curious to see what is in his file and whether it documents the fact that he has openly acknowledged stating all of these things. You might be able to recover some damages from these jerks if you file a lawsuit. Crocs, do better. Bringing the word about labor to the public. I was employed at a community-based group at the time. In a medium-sized town with a population of around 100,000, we advocated for human rights and offered top-notch housing. The majority of the staff was there because they supported our work, and the pay was modest but enough. The manager was the primary issue. She acted contrary to the principles upon which the organization was founded. She took everything personally, made sure we were isolated from the administration, was wildly overpaid in comparison to the staff, and fostered a culture of dread of reprisals. We were unionized, but after a few months I saw that nobody ever filed complaints, not even for minor issues, because they were afraid she would retaliate. It turns out that she has previously done it to a few individuals. I signed every complaint I could after realizing I wouldn't be here for long. The union said I could sign whatever I saw, even if I wasn't the target, so I assumed I'd see them through to the conclusion and depart. Administrators couldn't claim ignorance in this fashion, and my colleague had the opportunity to work in a better atmosphere. Naturally, the months that followed were a living misery. She constantly made fun of me. Nevertheless, the majority of people supported me, at least in private, because they were afraid she would treat them the same way if they came out as me. She calls a staff meeting one morning and tells them that a lot of complaints have been filed in the past few months. She looks at me as she says this, and the cost of settling them, or paying the lawyers to fight them, could bankrupt the company, putting everyone at risk of losing their jobs soon. Insert menacing music and panic breaks out. My coworkers start crying and calling their significant others, and many of them beg me to take them back, saying she learned her lesson, and some of them are actually upset with me. I believe it was bullcrap designed to turn them against me. The only emergency shelter in a city of 100,000 people, which is packed to 115% capacity each year, would have to close for a dozen complaints, and I'm not even requesting any kind of payment over legal expenses, which are often planned for beforehand? Come on. It's just a simple plot to incite terror. Normally, I would have tried to reason with them after the meeting or asked them about it. However, I made the decision to accept the story as fact that time. I took a pause and appealed to the public's fury to help us accomplish our goal, just as I would have if we were actually closing. Among other things, I phoned the news and informed them exactly what was said in the morning announcement, the impact it would have on jobs in the city, and the service gap it would cause in the community. It made the local news, inquiring as to why there were enough complaints to jeopardize a 35-year-old cornerstone of community services. They contacted the manager and administration to discuss airing the story. We had another meeting before 4 p.m. the same day to clarify that we must have misinterpreted the first one, since the organization was not in any way, shape, or form in danger of closing. We must have misinterpreted, yes. To put it briefly, my former company made an announcement about our jobs that was plainly untrue, but I handled it precisely like I would have if it were real, and it backfired on them. In the end, the union did act. In order to ensure that nothing untoward was going on, they first unlocked funds so that one of the administrators could be present 9/5 every day, simply sitting and relaxing in an office while shopping online. And there were some dodgy incidents. Following a private firm inquiry, they offered her the opportunity to resign without pointing the finger, which she accepted. Although we were happy she departed, we were nonetheless astounded by her level of impunity and the amount of money the organization was able to access all of a sudden. Yes, your supervisor was attempting to fool all of you into giving in. It was absolutely the appropriate thing to call their bluff, in my opinion. I don't understand why, during that initial meeting, no administrator voiced any opposition to this utter monster's assertions. This is also an excellent example of why unions are beneficial to workers in all occupations. One of the best ways to guarantee a safer workplace with less possibilities for bullying is to have a history of complaints against this kind of monster, and to prevent them from taking revenge out of fear of legal repercussions. Bathing suit wear is not professional. Visiting foster children once a month and trying to establish a good rapport with them is a part of my work. This may be challenging since I don't have much time, they grow bored easily, and they're afraid of strangers. One of my favorite foster families acquired a pool a few years ago, and the kids couldn't stop talking about it when they showed it to me. On my way to the visit, I casually said to a supervisor that I was excited to play in the pool with the children. The manager gave a worried look. For the visit, I told her, I had gone out and purchased an especially dowdy and covered-up outfit. According to her, wearing a bikini to work would be inappropriate regardless of the suit's design. When I told the 5 children that I was not permitted to wear a bathing suit, they were all quite upset. That was immediately relieved as I dove into the pool while dressed for work. I became the family's favorite social worker, but I'm not sure if it ever reached the supervisors. This is really lovely. And instead of just enjoying a swim for yourself, you made an extra effort to make these youngsters happy. That's a really kind approach to give children a positive example of an adult disregarding their own rules. And it's also good karma, author. It's likely a Hollywood cliché that social workers aren't really enjoyable. A really nice and healthy conclusion to our video. Thank you all for watching. Be remember to click the bell to enable alerts when you subscribe. To listen to all of the stories, turn the playlist on in the background. You may also visit easymode.com to listen to some amazing music. Try Am I the Genius if you enjoy Am I the Jerk. Everything in the description is linked.